Michael J. here. April 12th, 2025, we have the most interesting Canadian election out of them all. Not out of them all totally, but it's up in the top 5. So, what are we going to do? We're just going to listen to the noise, be influenced by the noise? Or are we just going to deal with the important facts that we need to deal with, or just the important issues that we need to deal with? And number one issue is our neighbor to the south of the 49th parallel, known as the United States of America. And we have an Agent Orange puttin'. He's a puttin', all right, because he's down on the golf course. The Putin operative, Nikita Khrushchev, did state Russia will take the United States from within. And who would have thought? April 12, 2025, it's happening right before your eyes. So nonetheless, we have to refocus on Canadians' needs. We don't want to be the 51st state. Not happening. But we don't have to rely on our neighbor to the south of us in the way we have in the past. We need to now disengage in a way, politely, take care of our needs in Canada first and foremost. And then secondly, after we take care of what is important for Canada, when the United States comes around, we can circle back, revisit, but it'll be in a situation that is symbiotically, mutually beneficial to Canada as well as the U.S. No more Big Brother. It's going to be on equal terms. So as I stated, we have a lot of noise. And we're going to just get rid of some of this noise. Get rid of some of these misconceptions, beliefs that you've created based on misinformation, disinformation. And number one is here, people say, well, Carney, tax havens. Let's be clear about one thing. Carney no longer works for Brookfield. Brookfield is a separate entity upon itself. Brookfield initially was owned by a couple of Bronfman's brothers. Edper was the company, their holding company, back in 1959. But the Brazil Light and Power Company, which morphed into Brookfield over and over years and changed their name to Brookfield. Also with the understanding that a chair of a corporation is not an officer of a corporation, and it's the officers of the corporation that guide what the company does. The chair, which was the capacity of Mark Carney, is a fiduciary just to make sure all governance issues are being adhered to so that there's no breach of any legislature, whether it be tax laws, any laws whatsoever. So that's the story. But here's the first misconception. Mr. Pierre Poilievre has a huge holding in Vanguard ETFs, Indexed Mutual Fund. And who's their biggest holding within Vanguard? It's Brookfield. So the hypocrisy is just magnanimous. It's not infinite. It is finite to a certain degree. That's why I say it's magnanimous. But the hypocrisy could be infinite. Because Pierre Poilievre, that's striking an iron against Carney, for tax havens, for Brookfield's behavior is hugely created on the behalf of Pierre Poilievre. And we could say it's in a magnificent state of disinformation and misinformation. You, the electorate, have to decide what's best for you. Do something that mitigates pain and suffering and creates a loving, harmonious, and prosperous situation. You're never going to get it perfect, but we want a better balance. So, without further ado, I'm going to just discuss some of the noise. We're going to look at some of the noise. And here's some of the noise. Elevate podcast 19 hours ago. Poilievre, Pierre, spikes in latest poll. I don't know what it is about these friggin' polls that is so important to these conservative followers. Also, crowd sizes. There seems to be a parallel with this guy Donald Trump. Not to say Pierre Poilievre is like a Donald Trump Jr., but I think he's close to a Donald Trump Jr. because he only has a couple tricks in his bag of goodies, and that is tax cuts and free markets and deregulation. And if you look at, say, a province like Ontario, Doug Ford's deregulation, free markets has created a housing crisis in Ontario. Simple as that. I'll use Ontario as another example. During COVID, which created a worldwide crash of gross domestic product, worldwide crash of the economy, thankfully, governments provided stipends, which is monetary value of money, in order for people to get by while we went through that crisis. It was originally known as of December 2019, and based on the WHO making statements that it ended May 2023. Just wiped out GDP around the world, crashed every economy. Let's not forget 2008, the Americans crashed the economy around the world. So let's stick with Canada. COVID created an inflation spike because you had no GDP. You had a lot of money going out to make sure that people could stay in their houses, in their homes, and eat while we got through the crisis. Creates an inflationary spike after. Can't get around it. That's just the natural cycle of the fiat economy and the macroeconomic factors at play worldwide with the economy. Nothing more, nothing less. So, GST cuts, tax cuts, may come in handy when you got a great income and affordability is not an issue. And the fact that you don't have to worry about tariffs, those things may be okay. Mind you, over the past 100 years, those things just wiped out the middle class and created deficits. And those deficits are at a very high level because that's been the conservative way of doing things. Always has been. Secondly, you say, well, certain people in power balance budgets. Well, if you look at Coolidge in the States and Bill Clinton in the States, every time they balanced a budget and had a surplus, it created a crash. So there's a fine line where government has to work differently, because when you balance the budget, you get too much private money out on the streets from banks. And the fact of the matter is, those private lenders, unless they're deregulated Unless you watch over them like a hawk, they will make some bad investments for a quick buck. And that's what led to the 2008 crash. So let's not go there, folks. So here, Pierre, I'm not even going to watch. I'm going to put a link in the description. You can watch these things at your own leisure. I just waste too much time watching what I consider, for the most part, not all the time, but for the most part, just noise and nonsense. The two ends. So there's Elevate podcast, 19 hours ago. It's April 12th, 2025. Next one here is Moose on the Loose. Panelist obliterates Mark Carney on live TV and Poilievre vindicated for refusing clearance. Right. Whatever you say, buddy. Moving on. I've debunked enough of these gentlemen's stuff. Juno News, the exact same. More of this stuff. This is just the noise. It's going to distract you from the issues. And then Global News, Liberals' Markham riding faces controversy. New candidate.
Controversy in the Ontario riding of Markham-Unionville again. The Liberals' original candidate.
Meanwhile, the guy that's running now was a deputy chief of the Metropolitan Police Force. A lot of people don't understand the Chinese community. So when these guilos or guelos, it's either Cantonese or Mandarin version of the round eye, which I'm a round eye. This announcer's a round eye. They really are not understanding of the Chinese culture. As simple as that. And we're going to leave it at that, and we're not going to go into it. Next, this gentleman here, he's done some interesting stuff, and he's actually very much improved his presentations. So we're just going to watch a little bit of this. Oh, and by the way, he's interviewing people on a main street off Kennedy Road north of Steeles, Old Unionville. Just so you know, Markham, Unionville. Markham/Unionville. Yikes.
You ready?
Sort of, yeah.
Do you usually participate in federal elections?
Yes.
And you're planning to vote this time again?
Yeah, I'm excited too.
You're excited to. Tell me why.
Yeah, I'm just was looking for a new change. Pierre Poilievre is the one.
At first I...
Okay. One thing that one gentleman said was looking for a new change. And here's an important thing I just want to point out to people. Change for the sake of change makes no sense. Change under the guidance of critical thinking can make a difference. So change for the sake of change makes no sense. Change under the critical eye of critical thinking can warrant change. You have to be careful about change. Just change for the sake of change makes no sense.
I thought conservative, but then with I'm pretty happy with I guess the Liberal.
I'm Desmond Cole reporting live for The Breach in lovely downtown Unionville in the riding of Markham Unionville, the federal district. We are here to talk to people about the upcoming April 28th federal election, just to get a vibe of how people are feeling, what issues are important to them, what they're looking for in the candidates in this upcoming election. Markham Unionville is an interesting riding. It was held by the Conservatives for 2 of Justin Trudeau's 3 terms of office before the Liberals took it back in 2021. It's also interesting, though, because it's part of the 905 area, the ring of municipalities around Toronto. And these ridings around Toronto often flip back and forth between the Conservatives and the Liberals, and whoever wins the majority of them often has a very good chance of forming the next government. What are the issues that are most concerning for you right now?
Well, it's the tariff for sure. Donald Trump, our relationship with the U.S.
Well, the biggest problem I think we have right now is Trump.
My concern is our stand with the U.S. That's my biggest concern right now. So I want someone who's going to stand up to them.
I just find that we're in a difficult time in Canada right now with everything that's going on with our cousins across the border.
We've also, I think, been relying on the U.S. too much in the past. And I think we need to move forward with some federal projects that will improve our infrastructure, develop the Ring of Fire, and make us less dependent on the U.S.
We have trillions of dollars in debt. So what are you going to do?
Hold on. Everybody gets caught up in this friggin' debt game. On a personal basis, it's not something you should ignore, but it's not something you should focus on. Let's put things in perspective. The balance sheet, because a government budget is different from a personal home budget and a private corporation owned by a plumber, etc., their budgets, or public companies. Government macro and microeconomic factors at play, policy-wise, are totally different from the previously mentioned. And our balance sheet in Canada is better than the balance sheet in the United States of America. Just want to state that.
If the United States cut, is 78% of the business go to U.S. We're done. Because our money, our
we
health
are not
insurance,
done.
our unemployment insurance, our welfare.
Because I'm going to tell you this. This might be a wake-up call. This might be the best thing that ever happened to Canada. And how we pivot right now is very, very important. You can waste 4 years on tax cuts, deregulation, and free markets. And this is my personal opinion. You're going to waste 4 years. Or you can work on a plan of a growth strategy that changes the economy of the Canadian landscape. Full stop. Cut and dry. Yikes.
Everything depends on the money we got.
What is important to you about this upcoming election?
I think primarily the economy, what's going on right now with the U.S. I'm looking to vote for a party that I trust to represent us and make those difficult decisions. Groceries, work-wise, paper, everything, all the products is going up, but hopefully these tariffs will disappear after, because I don't know, tariffs kind of hurting everyone. I think we need to diversify, right? Like, you know, when a country shows you that they're not reliable anymore, you have to look for new allies, or at least strengthen the allyships that you already have. So that was a good reason why we relied on America and they relied on us, but I think we need to stop that right now.
Poilievre has said in the past, which I find somewhat offensive, that he would take the tariff money that we're going to charge the United States and use it for tax write-off. What he failed to explain to me and Canadian population is, how does a person who has lost their job, has no income, is going to take advantage of a tax rebate? It's ridiculous. The man is on another planet, and he doesn't care.
I just don't think...
I couldn't have said it any better than that. And I just wanted you to have a different view. So we're going to cut. I just want to make this short. We're going to cut this. We're going to cut this. We're going to cut this shorter. I'm not going to show anything more on screen. Let's go back and recapitulate. Recapitulate, you say? Yes. Recapitulate. Number one, the hypocrisy that Pierre Poilievre does not own. You know, you could say Pierre Poilievre, his company, because Vanguard holds a huge holding in Brookfield, So that also is Pierre Poilievre's company. Do you understand the hypocrisy now, folks? I'm not creating hyperbole. I'm just sticking with the facts. Just like Joe Friday. Sticking with the facts. Now here's the other thing. If we're going to fix this problem, we got to deal with the issues. We got an affordability issue with homes. And the only one that's come out with what I think at this juncture is a proper plan to address that is Mark Carney with building new homes. The government building new homes like we did after the Second World War. You got to understand that after 1972 in Canada, all governments, not exclusive to one, all governments of different stripes stopped producing and building homes. And that was our key to prosperity after the Second World War. Building homes, and it was done through the government. Now we're going to move on to the next. You can read what's on the screen and why this is important from the government point of view to mitigate the cost of developers, like slowly weed out some of the profits of the developers, and mitigate the inflationary spikes created from this program. Because GST and doing it with developers and all that, you're going to build a friggin' bubble of water that's going to come back and bite you harder than if the government did it. So that's that there. Now, we are going to move to what is the most important thing that we need to focus on. And you say, do you really mean a growth strategy? Yeah, growth first strategy. We cannot prop up social programs in the way we would like to when we're in crisis mode right now. And this is basically where we're at. We have to re-engineer the economy in Canada. Simple as that. And that's what we need to focus on first. Growth first strategy. Number one, remove the barriers provincially from the West Coast to the East Coast. Now I want to make a point. In Alberta, a girl by the name of Danielle Smith, before she went down to the United States 2 times and missed 2 prime minister and premiers of the country meetings, she attended virtually, but she had to deal with conservative/Republican fundraisers, meetings with Donald Trump. And I won't go into the fact that she said to Donald Trump, one-on-one with Kevin O'Leary on her side, Mr. Wonderful. He's not on my Christmas list. And how she stated that the Liberals are getting an unfair advantage because of these tariffs that are targeting Canada. And if you would put a pause on these tariffs so that we can have our candidate, Pierre Poilievre, whom I think, this is Danielle speaking, is more in sync with the way Donald Trump thinks, so that we can work on new deals. Just saying, Breitbart interview with Danielle Smith, that was stated verbatim. So, provincial barriers. And, the whole point of stating that is that prior to Danielle Smith going down to the States for these numerous meetings with conservatives instead of dealing with the premiers here in Canada, her government had planned to put a 12% tax on wine in Alberta. So she went down a couple of times to the States, came back and forth, and recently that the new tax plan went into effect in Alberta. And I haven't heard an announcement, because she's a woman that speaks out, that she removed that 12% tariff that she created in Alberta, which is a tax, 12% tax on wine, to make it easier to trade between the West Coast and the East Coast. She hasn't removed it. Unless she did it silently. Just saying, folks. Now, secondly, as you know, or should know, Mark Carney has gone to Europe to deal with the EU leaders and to deal with the UK to open up and create communication for reinitiation and expanding upon new trade with the EU and with the UK. And thirdly, we need to focus on Mexico, because Mexico has been a good partner. Nobody's a perfect partner, but Mexico has been a good partner with the North America Free Trade Agreement and the subsequent trade agreement, CUSMA, that was negotiated early so that Donald J. Trump in his last term could put his stamp on it, just like a friggin' dog pissing on a fire hydrant. He said it was the best deal, which he's reneged on. And he reneges on every deal. That's why you not get a fair deal out of Trump. And that's a totally different topic to be discussed in maybe another video. So that's it. That's where we're at, folks. That's where we're at, my friend. So, not much more I can say than that. I would like to thank you. Ungoy shishia kamsamada domo grazie merci beaucoup. Sending love and peace to everybody. When you're spiraling out of control, anxiety's got a hold of you, stop. Do not attach. Do not create an outcome that you're just creating. Just relax. Take a few deep breaths. Sleep on it and reapproach it the next day. Do what my buddies do. Take a nap. Love and peace to y'all. Take care. Ciao for now. Bye-bye.